Your calorie deficit might be lying to you. Not because calories in, calories out doesn't work, because it does, but because the deficit you calculated on paper might actually be completely different from the one in reality. I'm Dr. Jon Go, I'm an ophthalmologist here in LA. I went from 40% body fat down to sub 10% body fat. I'm gonna show you 5 places your fat loss plan's calorie deficit quietly disappears, starting with the one everyone blames and ending with the one I think matters the most. Point number 1, your metabolism probably isn't broken. When weight loss stalls, most people blame their metabolism, but more often than not, the reason is simpler. You weigh less now, and a smaller body burns fewer calories. The deficit that worked at 240 pounds doesn't automatically work at 190 pounds. Your maintenance quietly moved, and your plan didn't move with it. Just look at your own data. Say you were losing a pound a week for the last 2 months based on what you're eating, but now your weekly averages are barely moving. That gap is your body telling you that the original estimate has shifted. First, confirm the trend holds for 2 or 3 consistent weeks. Then close the gap, slightly less food, slightly more movement, or both. But a shifting maintenance is only one reason that deficit quietly shrinks. The next one happens all day without most people noticing it. Point number 2, you can do the same workout and burn less all day. When calories drop and fatigue builds, you might find yourself moving less outside of the gym. You still complete your workout, you still do your 30 minutes on the treadmill. The workouts don't really change all that much, but outside that window, things shift. You might sit longer, you might stop pacing during calls. Maybe you choose the elevator, park closer, or spend more of your evenings on the couch. None of this feels like exercise, and that's exactly why it's so easy to miss. But together, these movements make up a meaningful chunk of your total daily expenditure. So a good part of the deficit can quietly disappear from the calories outside, even though your formal exercise hasn't changed at all. This is why I still track my steps after all of these years. Now, step count isn't a complete measurement of NEAT, but it acts as a practical proxy for part of it. NEAT is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. A major drop in steps tells me one part of the math has changed, even if my workouts haven't. But calories out is only half the equation. The next leak happens on the intake side. Point number 3, hunger changes the accuracy of your plan. An aggressive deficit doesn't only make you hungrier, it can change how accurately and consistently you follow the plan. A slightly larger spoonful of peanut butter, a heavier pour of oil, a few bites while cooking, a drink that didn't get logged, a restaurant meal entered as 700 calories when the real number is hard to know. There's a 1992 study in the New England Journal of Medicine that makes this concrete. In an intensively measured subgroup of 10 people who reported eating under 1,200 calories a day and still couldn't lose weight, researchers found that they had substantially underestimated how much they were eating and overestimated how much they were moving. Now, the issue wasn't a broken metabolism. The reported intake and activity didn't match the objective measurements. The larger the deficit, the more food-focused you tend to become. The more food-focused you become, the harder it is to maintain the exact intake plan. Now at this point, the calculated deficit has narrowed from both directions. You may be burning less than expected and eating more than estimated. This is where a food scale really helps, especially with calorie-dense foods. The bigger lesson is that your confidence in a calorie number should match the quality of the data behind it. Even perfect tracking, though, doesn't tell you whether you're getting the right outcome, because faster weight loss and better weight loss aren't always the same thing. Point number 4. The scale can improve while the quality of the cut gets worse. Aggressive deficits are persuasive because the first week looks incredible. If you eat fewer carbs, you store less glycogen, you carry less water weight, the scale drops fast, and that immediate feedback makes it feel like the aggressive approach is working. But the scale only measures total weight, not how much was fat, not how much was lean mass, not whether your training is improving or whether you'll still be following the plan 8 weeks from now. In a 2011 study, researchers took 24 athletes and split them into 2 groups with different weight loss targets. One group aimed for around 0.7% of body weight per week, and the other targeted roughly double that. Both lost similar weight, but the slower group actually gained lean mass during the study, while the faster group only maintained it. The slower group also improved its 1-rep max, albeit that group did spend about 3 more weeks in the study. The study was small and involved trained athletes, and this doesn't mean everyone should target exactly 0.7% per week, but it shows why sometimes the fastest drop on the scale isn't automatically the best outcome. If you care about muscle strength, performance, and actually sticking to the plan long term, the quality of the weight loss matters. And even this still isn't the deepest problem with an aggressive deficit. Number 5, the deficit changes the person responsible for maintaining it. A calorie deficit doesn't happen inside a spreadsheet. It happens to a human being, and the size of the deficit changes the person responsible for sustaining it. Your hunger changes, your fatigue changes, your patience changes, your training quality changes, your ability to keep saying no to things changes. A larger deficit still predicts faster weight loss if every input stays fixed, but the inputs don't stay fixed. The plan itself can start affecting the behaviors required to follow it, and that's the deficit trap here. Someone can create an aggressive deficit, follow it perfectly for 10 days, lose weight quickly, then spend the next 6 weeks cycling between restriction and overeating. The original calorie target didn't fail mathematically, it failed behaviorally, and behavioral failure still changes the energy balance. And if the same deficit keeps producing the same failure cycle, restrict, overeat, restrict again, cutting harder isn't the fix, it's accelerating that problem. So the better question isn't only how large is my calculated deficit, it's what is this deficit doing to my hunger, my movement, my training, my recovery, and my ability to follow it. The solution? Build a deficit that survives real life. Start with an observed maintenance when you can. Use a modest reduction rather than immediately pulling off 700 calories a day. Keep protein and resistance training in place. Keep your daily movement reasonably consistent, and judge progress on weekly averages. Then make small incremental adjustments after you've collected enough consistent data. Your calorie deficit isn't lying because calories in, calories out stopped working. It's lying because the deficit changed the person responsible for maintaining it. So stop asking, do I need a larger calorie deficit? And start asking, what happens to my body after I cut? That's where your real deficit lives. And if you don't know where to start with all of this, check out this video on how I'd approach fat loss today.